On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. He's a legendary former professional baseball player and one of the all-time greats who played a staggering 17 years in the major leagues, most well known for his run on my New York Mets. He was one of the most feared sluggers in the sport who facilitated some of the greatest moonshot home runs of all time. He's a four-time World Series champion and an 8-year consecutive All-Star, not to mention a best-selling author. He's a man of faith and has bounced off rock bottom, including addiction and his share of demons, to becoming a beacon of hope, faith, transformation, and inspiration to millions. He's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a shining example of reinvention. Please welcome the iconic, dangerous, athletic, big-hearted, and one-of-a-kind, dynamic Darryl Strawberry. How you doing, Darryl?
I'm doing good, Craig. Thank you for that. I appreciate all of that. But I'm just a simple guy, of course. I love the fact of being a New Yorker, playing in New York and achieving all those great things in New York City. And I think what a lot of times people don't understand, New York City teach you a lot about life. And I think that was my greatest experience of being a part of New York City is to learn a lot, not only playing baseball, but to learn a lot about becoming a person and dealing with life situations. Because, New York, so many people deal with so many different things, but they never quit. They never give up. And that's what I love about the place in New York City.
Yeah, we're gritty and persistent out here.
Very persistent. There's no doubt about that. And I think I learned that from not giving up and not quitting, even through the trials and tribulations of my life because of, being in New York City and being an athlete there and knowing the expectations of the fans and everything. And they don't give up on you. They don't quit on you. But what I love about it is they make you learn who you are when they get on you to let you know you suck because they're telling you you're better than what you're doing. So that's a part that has always been in me. And I think it has led me into my destiny today, because of that.
Bang, beautifully said. And I guess it's a gift and a curse to being a professional athlete in New York is there's a lot of pressure because there's a lot of expectations on one side, but on the other, if you show up every day and give it your all, they will love you like family forever.
Well, expectations is good because if you don't have any expectations and you're just showing up all the time to the ballpark to watch somebody play, then you see somebody that has so much skill set to be able to do so well. And when they're not doing well, and if you let them know, then, that's a big help to the person. It's just I think the only thing about it is how does a person receive that? And I think a lot of times, players that have come through there, a lot of them say they want to play in New York. Be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. And you get there and then you realize that the crowds are a lot different than anywhere else you've ever been. They're not going to let you get away just, going halfway. They want you to go all the way and all the way in. So I wouldn't say it was a curse. I say it was a blessing in disguise for me, to be able to grow up there from a young player, at the age of 21 and, experience a fast moving pace. Because it got me prepared for life. I can say that for me personally. It got me prepared for life, for real life after baseball, after taking off a uniform. And I think sometimes people don't realize that you can't wear a uniform forever. A uniform is just what you do. It's not who you are.
Yeah, and we're going to unpack all of this. This is going to be fun, so exciting. And you're absolutely right. Expectations is a beautiful thing, right? New York is going to let you hear it. But what does it really mean to someone that's competitive and wants to be great? It means that you got to bring it each and every single day. And if you do that, that's all that they're asking for.
It's a driving force for you, because if you have that competitive spirit, it kind of pushes you. I think if you let it get to you, then if you start hearing the boos, the boos are there when you're playing, which is a good thing. But if you start letting it affect you, then you won't be able to perform. I love the fact that they did that because it made me realize, hey, I'm pretty good. I need to get it going here. I need to not sit on my behind and not play well. So those thoughts for me were always like, okay, well, let's play this little game. They want to act that way. Well, I hit 2 home runs, I hit it off the scoreboard, and I just go down into the tunnel, smoke me a cigarette, won't come out for a curtain call. Hey, that's just me, Darryl Strawberry. And it was fun doing that. And that was the love that I experienced from playing there and being able to do that and kind of deal with the fact that it could be very challenging, or if you're weak. But see, I wasn't weak. I'm from South Central. I'm from LA. I grew up in the streets, so I know it's tough. You got to be tough. And I knew coming there and playing there, and once I got used to the atmosphere there, I knew I had to have tough skin and I had to be able to perform.
Yeah, this is gripping stuff. This is great. And before we dive into all the really deep stuff, just because you just mentioned it, is there a difference? And if so, what is between the fans for the Mets and the Yankees?
Well, that's a really good question, because New York is very passionate about who they are.
Great word. Yep.
The Bronx is the Bronx. You go over to the Bronx and, they're a little different. It's more of a how you doing over there in the Bronx, so more of a and over in Queens, Queens and Long Island, I just remember the fans are great in New York City, but the fans were great to me in Queens. Of course, they were in the Bronx too, but the fans were great to me in Queens because I grew up in Queens and I grew up at Shea Stadium. I didn't grow up in playing Citi Field, and you just remember, the years of playing in Queens at Shea Stadium, and you just remember the fans poured into that stadium to watch us play in the 80s. It wasn't like, we were getting, 10, 15,000, we were getting 40,000 a night, 35, 40,000 a night, for years, year after year, because our teams were so good. So, the Met fans are, Met fans are people who are always hoping for a good season and a good team, when it starts off with spring training. And, that's been their hope for a very long time. And I think in the 80s, when they saw us, they didn't have to hope. They knew every year that we were coming in, there is no doubt about these guys. These guys are going to play. And see, we won in 86, but people don't understand we had a great team every year. We had a chance to win every year. We didn't have the wild card like they do now. And so it's a big difference. So, I feel for Met fans that they have to suffer so much, because of their loyalty to the team and the players. And, they want them to win, and just hopefully they can get to that place and start playing like that every year where they got a chance and bring excitement back over in Queens.
Hell yeah, beautifully said. I'm optimistic. And it's so true. Like the Yankee organization or their fan base is more maybe expecting to win because they win so much, whereas the Mets are grateful for a great season.
Yeah, the expectations over on the other side in the Bronx is, they're going to be in the race. They're going to be at the top, and they're going to get into the playoff or something. But will they win or not? At least they know they have a chance. And that's what you would hope would come over to Queens for the next 10 years or so, where they know that they have a chance. It's not going to be that long, but we play good for the first half, then we get into the second half of the season, and then we fade out, and then there's another year lost. And hopefully this year could be a different year for them, and they can experience some of the good of what it's really like, being a Met player and playing in Queens and having the fans, rally around you, because there's nothing like it. I tell you, I did it for so many great years, and it was always fun to come to the ballpark and play. I don't care if I was struggling or not. It was fun coming to that ballpark to play.
Hell yeah, you nailed it. This is awesome. Only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat. Before we dive into the really deep stuff, we're going to have a little fun. Real quickly, straight up, Darryl, what is your superpower?
A superpower?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. My superpower is, I think today is my faith of who I am more than anything. My belief system is not about, what I can achieve. It's what I can do, what I really can do to make a difference. And I think that's what I operate in more than anything, to have the superpower and the capacity to understand that, because you have to be able to understand that, because if you don't understand that, well, superpower could mean a lot to different people and become a fantasy that you could never actually operate in. And so I think in my faith, I get to operate in a different capacity, and I get to see things from a different perspective. And I get to see the importance of who I am today, not from the baseball, that was a platform, but to be the man that I am today, to go out and really, really, truly make a difference in other people's lives. And the reason why I say that, the superpower of that, is because I have become a different person. And, I went through so many trials and tribulations, and I experienced things. So that means I'm able to give back. It doesn't mean your life is over, because you go through that, and you can use what you've been through, and you can use it as a motivation factor in your life to make a difference in someone else's life, because so many people are hurting, and you got a message, that you can really carry to encourage people that their life can be better, no matter what you've been through.
Yes, and there's a quote that I heard recently that was pretty cool. It was, take your mess and make it your message. And something that you just said, like, if you didn't have those trials and tribulations, then you wouldn't necessarily have the credibility to help someone that was going through it now, right?
you don't have, yeah, you don't have the message to give to them,
Yeah.
because I think as people, we sit around and we look at famous people and we look at successful people and we look at people with wealth, and we think they've never been through any problems. They've been through some problems. They've been through some trials and tribulations to get to where they're at and to be successful. You're going to go through something. But I think the key is what people don't understand is you don't quit because you go through some struggles and you face some adversity. Adversities is part of life. It's something that we're going to have to deal with. It's those that overcome it, and dealing with it. That could be in business. That could be in, whatever it is, health or whatever you go through. You're going to go through some different challenges, because I've been through health problems with cancer twice. If I wasn't strong enough inside, I would never believe that I could move forward. And I just want to make sure that we get people to understand that you can move forward no matter what you go through, no matter how far. You definitely take the mess, of your life and turn it into your message so that you can deliver it to somebody else and encourage someone else.
Yeah, this is awesome. And just to give some context, like it wasn't always like that for you, right? Like I remember I heard you talking recently. You talking about like when you first came up to the big leagues, you were a 6'6" physical specimen, big time hitter, rookie of the year. But ultimately you were already kind of broken and empty on the inside right from the beginning, based upon kind of your upbringing. Is that right?
Yeah, believe it or not, most people that you see are athletes are probably broken on the inside, especially when they don't have a male figure in their life and they grow up by themselves and they learn life by themselves. So guess what you do? You learn all the bad habits by yourself, and you learn to pick them up, because you realize nobody has ever been there to guide you and tell you. I always say you can pick your sins, but you can't pick your consequences. Consequences are the reality of life, and they will show up in our life one day at one time. And for me, that's what it was. I was picking all the things I wanted to do that I thought was good, but I didn't realize somewhere along the line there was going to be some consequences behind them, and those were my actions. And but the thing is, I think most people don't do is they don't take responsibility for them. I have taken responsibility for them, so it doesn't matter what I've been through. It means that I just been through, and sometime in life you're going to have to go through to get to where you're supposed to get to. And there's another side of getting to, being this great athlete and achieving everything that I could on the baseball field was great. But who am I as a man? When you never seen a man in your life, you don't know who you are as a man. So you think everything that you do is okay to do, but there's no price to pay. But there's a price to pay, and I'm grateful for it. I think a lot of people probably look at me today and say, "Well, coulda, shoulda, woulda," but I am who I'm supposed to be today, and that's what's important. That's what I stay focused on, and that's what I see. And delivering the message that I have to deliver today, I think is far greater than anything that I could ever imagine.
100%. And like the trophies are cool, the World Series are cool, the home runs. But at some point, like that ends, right? Like the uniform comes off, the lights are off, but the impact that you're making today is literally saving lives and inspiring people. And one thing that you just mentioned, which I thought was really interesting, is the transformation. Based upon my experience, and I'd like to see if you agree, it really starts to begin when you have acceptance, right? Like when you kind of take ownership for this stuff that you don't have to like it, but accept that this did happen. I'm owning it. I'm not proud of it, but now I accept it so I can kind of move forward. That's when the transformation really begins to take shape. Would you agree?
I agree, and that's called being responsible. Responsibility of your actions. And we've all had some things that we've fallen short in, but
Everybody.
yeah, everybody has it. But do you take responsibility? So many people want to always blame everybody else for it. You can't blame everybody else for the mistakes that you make in life.
The
You have
victim
to be,
mentality.
you, yeah, because if you have that victim mentality, you're going to stay there. You're never going to get out of it. You're never going to get free. You're never going to be able to move on because you're going to be looking around and you're going to be saying to yourself all the time, well, this is everybody else's fault that I'm like that. No, it's not everybody else's fault that I'm like that. It's the decisions that I made that has made me like this. But I can get out of these places if I make better decisions. See, the thing about me today is I'm no better than anybody that I play with. I've just made better decisions not to live like that anymore. If you want to continue to live with the uniform on, I don't live with the baseball uniform on. Yes, I'm Darryl Strawberry. I played for the Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, Giants. I did all that. I kicked butt and everything, had fun, World Series champ, this and that, and home run champ. But at the point of my life, who am I? And that's what people have to recognize about themselves. Who are you? You are created for more than just what you do. There's a creation on the inside of you that you have to tap into, that know that I can do totally different things than I did before in my life and with the rest of my life. And I think that's the crossover. But the crossover, Craig, is because of taking responsibility and saying, hey, I got some shortcomings that I need to clean up in my life to get on this other side.
Yeah, massive accountability. This is great stuff. And I've interviewed some of the world's greats in every arena. One conversation specifically that sticks out is I was recently speaking to Brian Dawkins, Hall of Famer from the NFL, and he was like, football is what I did. It's not who I am. And it just reminded me of what you just said. And also something that you say often, which I think is really great for the audience listening, we're over a million now, is pain can be turned into such a deep purpose.
It is so true. The pain of what happens to you, if you don't live in the pain, you can utilize the pain and turn it into your greatness. You could turn your weakness of who you are into your strength of what you become. And I think so many people don't grab a hold of that. They think pain is gonna kill me. No, it's gonna kill you if you let it kill you. But if you get up and you operate from a different place and see yourself as a different person, then you can fulfill the promises over your life. There's promises over all our lives. Everybody. It's just a matter of the people that take advantage of it. Those that take advantage of the promises over their life, they step into it, they get out of fear, they get out of doubt, and they stop worrying about what everybody else has to say. Had I sat here and worried about what everybody else was going to say about me because of my falls, then I wouldn't be the man I am today. I'm a greater man for getting up and putting on my pants and putting them on the right way and looking at me and saying, there's greatness on the inside of you. There's a reverse on the inside of all of us. Greatness on the inside of all of us that nobody can reverse from us, unless we give them that power. If you don't give them that power over you, then you will experience the greatness on the inside of you.
Hell yeah. And I would even argue to say that you're a greater man than if the things didn't even happen, right? Because essentially one perspective is that I know you're big on, is that God was qualifying you, right? To make your testimonial. And that's what people see, and it makes it relatable.
Yeah, it's because he was qualifying me. I'm completely sitting here and telling him, I'm unqualified, to do the things you're calling me to do. And the good thing is him speaking to me and telling me no one is qualified. I qualify the call. So when you get qualified by him, then you realize that I don't have to live up to anybody else's standards. I have to live up to different principles. And as long as I'm living up to the principles that I feel fulfills the purpose over my life, and then I'm good. Then I'm having such great joy and having fun doing what I'm doing. Don't get me wrong, Craig, I had great time playing baseball, the greatest time. I fulfilled all the promises that I wanted to as a kid growing up, to be able to play baseball and get to the major leagues and be successful. That was amazing. But this second half of my life is incredible. I am fulfilling things in my life that I never could imagine or think that I was possible or capable of doing. And that's standing in front of people and doing ministry and doing things, on a platform that is far way greater than anything that I could ever imagine. And it's having a global impact on people's lives, all over the place. People are watching me and saying, wow, this guy is totally different from what he was when he played baseball and he was a baseball player, and all the troubles he had. We looked at the troubles, but we didn't look at the end of his life. We only looked at the middle part. See, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. So you could have trouble at the beginning or the middle or the end, whichever way you want. But I had it in the middle, of life. And the middle of life crisis that I had was really troubling for me. But the end parts of my life is far greater than anything that I've ever experienced or anything I've been through in my life.
Absolutely. Amen. And isn't it so fascinating that there's a big audience out there that has seen your transformation, but there's probably also a younger audience that only knows this side of you, and they get to hear all the amazing work that you're doing. Obviously, you tell them what you've been through so that they see that you're qualified and so forth. But I just want to let the audience know, I listen to your speeches and some of your talks, and there's a lot of people in the space that do it, but you're some of the most impactful that I ever heard in my entire life. So I wanted to acknowledge you for that. And also, I heard you say this. Everyone can give up on you, but God will never give up on you.
Yeah, it is a place where everybody in the natural and the flesh would give up on people, and they will say things, just because you have been through something and you've been through it in the public eye. For me, it was the public perception. But they never talk about, they never talk about the ending. They always talk about, oh, here they go with the God thing. But it look at what it's done in my life. If you honestly take time to go and listen, you'll see that I'm a different person than what I was when I played baseball, and when I was achieving things, and when I was going through the trials and tribulations. Because now I speak from a totally different perspective, because I've experienced so many things in life. Now I have a message of bringing hope to others, because everybody in this country somewhere is going through something. It's not a place where you can sit here and say, I'm not going to go through anything. And I always say,
Inevitable.
either you're in a storm, or storm's on the way, or you're coming out of storm. But how do you deal with them? You deal with the fact that, the storm doesn't kill you. If I stay above the water and keep my lifeguard on myself, the storm will not kill me. I will get through it. That I know more than anything now, is because I operate on this side. I operate on the side of God's principles and his love for my life. I don't live according to opinions, from man. I live according to opinions from one man, and that's God himself.
This is dynamite. I have to run that back. Either for anybody out there, either you're going through a storm, there's a storm coming, or you're just coming out of a storm.
It's the storm. Either you're in a storm, coming out of a storm, or storm's on the way.
So
it's
true.
the storms of life.
Yeah, it's just a season if you have that attitude and mentality.
That's all it is. It's a season to walk through, because we all have to endure, not some of us. I think we all have to endure. You think about it. We had to go through the pandemic. What do we had to do? We had to endure. We had to go through the craziness of what's going on in a nation. What are we doing right now? We're trying to endure it. We're trying to endure the fact that, there's a lot of crime and a lot of hatred and a lot of things going on in the street that we all have to endure. We don't want to be a part of it because we're not consumed with that, but it's a reality that we're living in and everything. And it's the same thing anybody else go through in your life. When you go through those kind of things in your life, you have to endure them to be able to get through them and get on the other side of them.
This hits home for me. And I recently started running marathons, and I've become a little addicted to them. But one of the reasons why is because it's such a metaphor for life, right? Like you have to endure that voice in the head that comes in, but it always reminded me of life and so forth. I wanted to ask you, just to give some context, like when did it start, like in the big leagues, when you got there and you kind of started dabbling with maybe not the best decisions? Like how quickly into your career did that begin?
I think it started early. I got introduced in my rookie year to all the wrong things, by a veteran player on the plane ride, where he introduced me and told me to go to the back of the plane. I was 21, and welcome to the big leagues, kids. And I got introduced to cocaine. So there, I started with that, right away. I got introduced to it, but I didn't go on a run, after that, like I did later on in my life. But, I got introduced to the nightlife and showed, when we got to the hotel, after the road trip, and then they said, meet me downstairs, and they took me out to the club and went to the bar and started drinking, and there was all the women and stuff, and at the bar and everything. And I got introduced to all that at a young age. So, when you get exposed to those kind of things, doesn't mean it take place immediately, but this is the way I was introduced to the major leagues and thought this is the way life is. It's one big party. You have fun. I didn't know any better, so what do you expect? I come from a broken situation, so I'm empty on the inside. So I want to fit in. I want to be a part of what these guys are. And this is the big leagues. I've arrived. So, that's the way I was introduced. But I tell you one thing, I did never introduce young players like that. When I realized what the big leagues were all about, I introduced young players when they came up and they were young. I would never take them out to clubs or anything, bars or anything. I would take them shopping and buy them clothes. I say, this is what the big leagues is all about, because I didn't want them to experience what I had experienced, because it had got a hold of me. And once they get a hold of you, it's hard to get away from it. Then you get addicted. It's like you end up with addicted personality. I had addicted personality to the women, to going out to drink, and I got addicted to taking amphetamines, playing every night. So it was just so much that it was just so much you get addicted to, and people don't understand how easy it is, and it can happen to you. And people say, well, you should have stayed away from that. You should have been strong enough. Well, I didn't have a father. So what am I strong about? I'm a man on the island by myself. I had to learn all these things by myself. So I wanted to try them and be a part of them. And they were costly for me.
Yeah, it's so true. And like it's so easy to say like get a mentor, read a book, but a lot of times you just have to go through life and experience this stuff. And but ultimately we learn lessons, hopefully, and we apply them going forward. I agree with you 100%. Also, I was doing my homework because number one, I'm a fan. And number two, obviously, I want to show this conversation the respect it deserves. I heard you talking about like the adversary's big weapon is to have you believe that you're great because you're hitting all these home runs. It's all about you, not the team, so to speak, and he deceives you. Is that accurate?
That is so true. I mean, that is so important for us to understand as people. The adversary is busy 24/7. I always tell people while you sleeping, he's doing push-ups, seeing who he's going to destroy, because his job is to destroy us. And people think it's just us that's destroying ourselves. But no, it's the enemy job to destroy you. He's got a plan, and we have to be aware of that. If you're not aware of that, that's because you don't know the difference between one way or the other way. So you think that, well, this is just the way life is and it's supposed to be, and it's not. It's a plan that he has to make you believe, I'll give you all this, I'll make you can be famous as you want, you can have much as success you want to have, but as long as you don't know these principles over here, which is God principles, and you don't live by them, then he's not worried about you. But when you start thinking about these, when I started thinking about these principles over here and living by these principles, that's when the attack even came more on my life. And that's when I had to really be able to sit still and be quiet and not move and stay put and learn a different way. And, people don't understand that I sat for 7 years being discipled, and when I had to go through the discipleship, I had to learn the word of God, and I had to learn who I was in that because he was going to reveal himself to me. But the enemy was always busy trying to pull me away. But guess what? This time I didn't get pulled away. I stayed, and I stayed in the principles, and then I had the transformation, and then I became the man that I always wanted to be, not the ball player. I was great at doing that, but I'm talking about the man that I always wanted to be, because my father had rejected me and said I would never amount to anything. So you kind of grow up and believe that when you're 14 years old, and he pulls out a shotgun and comes home drunk and says he's going to kill the whole family. So what do? You go into action. And had it not been for my mother getting him out of the house, we would have killed him that night. So I grew up with all that emptiness on the inside. So it made me believe that achieving everything was going to make me well. And that's not the case. It just makes your situation better, but it doesn't make you well on the inside.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for pulling back the curtain and being so vulnerable and transparent. This is what really makes the deep, gripping conversation. And when you say the adversary, like the enemy, and like depending upon what you believe in, if it's like a lot of energy, then that's ego or scarcity. But with what we believe in and like faith and so forth, that's like essentially evil trying to divide us, right? And to keep us off track. And so what we have to do, really anybody, is to create systems to block out that interference. Is that kind of like another way of saying it?
Yeah, of course it is. Whatever it may be, like you said, for other people, but we're talking about my faith and stuff, though it's different. Adversary, he's busy to keep you away from growing.
Yeah.
And you think about, use like you said, energy or whatever it is people go through. And you brought up a good word there, ego. You know what ego is? 3-letter word, easing God out. See, most people don't even know that. They just
Ooh,
don't understand. They don't understand that. That's what
Daryl's
ego
got
stands for.
nuggets today.
that's that's something people need to grab a hold of, because most people walk in ego, and ego and their pride of who they are, but they don't know at the time you're easing God out, completely out of your situation, your life and circumstance. Because when the trials and tribulations come, who do you have? That's what most people have, nothing to fall on. They want to fall on, well, I have success, I have this, I have that. But it's still, the trials and tribulations are a part of everything that we experience in life. And when you experience that in life, if you don't have a great foundation to fall upon, on your spiritual foundation in your life, you're going to fall up on the same things and trying to get a different result. Most people will keep doing the same thing, looking for a different result. So what do they say that is? That's insanity, because I'm not doing anything different. You keep doing the same thing. You keep going to a wife, another wife, and this another girl to make me happy. You cannot make yourself happy on the inside. You can make yourself happy from the outside, but on the inside is your real true feelings. And I think that's what happened to me, getting my insides well and know that I could be free on the inside. I don't have to have a bunch of stuff to be free. I have to be free on the inside And that's the most important part of a man's life, is getting free on the inside so he can eventually become everything that he was created to be.
Hell yeah. And I just want to say, like, as a fan from New York, like the home runs, like the awards, like that's cool. But in my opinion, you're so much cooler now, having gone through all this stuff and got to the other side and now giving back. Like for me, like even like comic books growing up, like I never really like related to Superman because there wasn't so much, I couldn't really relate. But the people that go through a lot of stuff and then come out the other side grown, it's just, I love it and it's special and you're glowing today, my friend. And also like for the audience, like we've all been through stuff, but what do you do now, right? Like, and I heard you say this, one of my personal favorites of yours, you're a sinner, you just don't practice anymore.
Yeah, it's just, it's a lifestyle that I used to practice. It's a lifestyle I used to live. It's a lifestyle I used to thought was really cool, hanging out and chasing girls and drinking and smoking cigarettes and doing drugs and, and doing all the crazy things that you do in the midst of all that. You think that's really cool, Yeah, yes, yeah. I'm still a sinner. I just don't practice the lifestyle anymore. I'm nothing perfect about me. Everyone falls short, but I just don't live in the lifestyle that I used to live in. And and it's so funny because all the guys, a lot of guys that I played with, they thing was when I was crossing over going to this other side, it was so funny because they were like saying, well, let's see how long this will last. Well, it's been 20 years and they're still waiting for me to go back. And I haven't been back, so it tells you that something has really happened and changed in my life, that doesn't have a hold of me of going back into that area. And that's the life I used to practice. I no longer practice that anymore. I live a totally different life. I'm in love with God. I'm in love with my wife. I'm in love with my kids. And I'm in love with what I get to do. What I get to do is far greater than anything that, like I said before, in the middle of this conversation, that I could ever imagine, is to have an impact on other people's lives. And that's what gets me. That's what keeps me from going back.
Amen. And also, like, not only what you get to do, but what you've become. And what you've become is a beacon of hope, transformation, inspiration to me, to anybody. And it doesn't have to just be like addictions. It could be anybody that's going through a storm, right? That can get out the other side and so forth. Darryl, how long have you been sober for now?
It's about over 20 years now. I haven't been down those roads in over 20 years.
Awesome.
And I've lived on the other side of life. Of just, I don't look back. I know. I look back at some of the pictures and and being in handcuffs and being in front of the judge and the jumpsuits and stuff like that. And I look back and I say, man, that guy was crazy there. But I realized, that it's a gift to be able to get on the other side. But what has to happen for a person who struggles in those areas, you got to be completely honest with yourself.
Yes.
You can't be pointing the fingers at everything else and saying this is the reason why I keep being this way. No, you want to be that way because you don't want to change those behaviors. See, it wasn't what people don't understand. Yeah, I used drugs and drank, but it wasn't the drugs and alcohol. It was the behavior of who I was. And once I changed the behavior of who I was, then I had no longer had the desire, to be that person anymore. So I'm grateful for the fact that, I understand that it was my behavior. If you never change your behavior, you're going to stay stuck in the same place.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you want to change things in a big way, you have to make some big changes, right? Straight up. Unbelievable stuff. I wanted to ask you, like, was there a specific incident that happened for you to make this commitment, or was it kind of just like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Well, it's over a period of time. You get sick and tired of being tired, but what are you going to do different?
Right.
You got to do something different, for something different to come. So, what I think it was is, my wife Tracy, who's in my life today. When I think about it and look back, she was pulling me out of dope houses in South Florida, and she was in recovery 1 year, and she was pulling me out of dope houses, and I was shooting dope, smoking crack, and she banging on doors and pulling me out. And she's telling me, well, God's got a plan for your life. I said, won't you and God just leave me here and just let me die? And she goes, you're just not that lucky. So I thought to myself that she was crazier than I was, but that just shows you the importance of what this is really all about. And what I'm saying this for people to understand, It's about people helping people. And if we can get over ourselves and get beside ourselves, people do help people. And that's what it all boils down to. It was her helping me. It was other people encouraging me. They were the impact on my life that made a difference in my life to see the good that sometimes you can't see in yourself. But you have to be able to surrender to that to be able to receive that. And if you don't surrender to that, you can't receive that. And I think that's what happens to so many people. They don't see themselves where they receive things. They believe they have a good in them, but they never receive it. It's a receiving part too that you have to receive to be able to push you into your next destiny of life.
Yeah, that's just absolutely beautifully articulated, and I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. And ultimately, like in regards to that, you ended up having or practicing forgiveness with your dad, right?
Yeah, that was a big key. That was a big key of me getting well. Because he was not a part of my life and my career. Didn't know his grandkids or anything like that. And then God sending me after God gave me grace. He sent me to extend the grace to him, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I had to go down to him and ask him to forgive me, for keeping him out of my life and career and not seeing his grandkids, and that extended me to leading him to the Lord. And just 6 months later, he would pass away. But in the midst of that, God was showing me the fact that the forgiveness was not for him. The forgiveness was for me. That's
Yep.
the reason why I stayed broken, because I wouldn't release him. I wouldn't let him go. And this is what happens to so many of us. We don't want to let people go, what happened and everything else. And then we wonder why we not going forward like we should with joy and peace and love and freedom inside of our heart, because we got bitterness in our heart because we're holding somebody else hostage. And that's what happened to me my whole life, with my father. Was holding him hostage made me bitter. It allowed me to go play baseball and do all those great things as a player. But at the same time, I was never well on the inside, and once I released him, I became well and free on the inside. I tell you, the freedom came from that, of going down and seeing him in the hospital was a big relief to my life. I had never been the same after that weight came off of me. I was a different person. Something changed in me, and something happened in me, and I started to just move into just another dimension of my life that I could never imagine, because I was free. So God was really showing me, if you can't get free on the inside, then you could talk about you free, but you have to experience the real freedom on the inside of letting someone go. And I let my father go, and that was the greatest gift I ever received in my life.
Beautifully said. And a word that comes to mind that I imagine you felt was just liberated.
Yes, just freedom. Redeemed. You feel like you really rescued, redeemed, and restored. Now you restored to wholeness, you restored to righteousness, you restored to a whole different place, because that's the only thing I really had in my heart that killed me for so many years. And I think as people, we hold those different things inside of us that has happened to us, that someone has done to us, and we see them as, we hate them, but at the same time we hate ourselves because we're not free from letting that person go when we got free ourselves. And I had to look at the freedom that was given to me. And I always tell people, understanding grace, grace is so important to so many people, and I think they don't understand it. What is grace? Grace is something you don't deserve, but God gives it to you anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't deserve the grace, but he gave it to me anyway. So how can I not give somebody else grace? That even if I don't think they deserve it, you don't deserve it, and he gave it to you. So that was my understanding of being able to get to the next place that I needed to get.
Yeah, I love this. And also, like, I don't judge anybody, because God knows I'm not perfect at all. And I know everyone's probably going through a storm that you don't know about. And Grace, what beautifully said. And also, like, I'm not sure if this relates to your dad, but so many people always ask me, because I'm so big on positivity and surrounding yourself with elevated people and people that are doing good stuff. And on the flip side, kind of removing yourself from people that bring you down. Something that I heard you said that was just beautiful was you can love people and yet not tolerate them.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's the key right
You
there.
got all the Darryl hits today.
It's not about not liking people and holding grudges against people. That's not what life is about. It's about being able to love people, but you don't have to tolerate them. And I think I learned that from my wife. She loved me when I was in the midst of my addiction, but she didn't tolerate my behavior, because the behavior of people brings about the trouble in their life. And it's not until they change that. So I love people, but I don't have to tolerate people. I don't have to fit in, and I don't fit in a lot of circles nowadays because I don't do a lot of things that I used to do. So everybody thinks, well, you're not fun anymore. Yeah, I have a lot of fun. I just keep life simple, and I just love on people, and I care for people, and I care for people to get well, because I know what's in people's hearts. Everybody has something good in their heart, but they just have this bad behavior, and the bad decisions that they make cost them to be who they are. And if they can eliminate that and get rid of that, then they can see the good of what they were created for. Because we're all created for good, and it's just, it's just a society that we comes into now that's really broken, and broken pieces are true. And you think about the generation after generation, lawlessness brings about brokenness. It just continues to bring broken generation of people.
Yeah, and I love that you said like we're meant to be good, like we're all meant to be abundant, right? And like analogy I use, like with energy, like if you're looking at an ocean, we're not separated by waves, we're all one, we're all infinite, and we're meant to be abundant and do great stuff. It's the thoughts that sometimes sabotage us, which create limiting beliefs and so forth. So even just like being mindful or praying and stuff like that can be so key for the audience listening, and it's a tangible technique that you can take away right away. I'm wondering, do you have like a meditation practice, or do you pray? Like, how does that work for you?
I just, I constantly pray. I don't pray for things. I pray
Yeah.
for, I pray for strength. I pray for wisdom. I pray for peace. And I think that is something very dear to my heart, and the important part of who my life is. To be able to do that. It's not like I'm looking for things. I'm looking for the most important ingredients in one life, is what we need every day. We need strength. You need health. You need clear thoughts. And you need to be able to make the right decisions. If you make the right decisions and you live according to what your life is, you win. It's just as simple as that. I think us as people, we have gotten to the place where we have complicated this whole craziness about what life is. And what we don't really understand a lot is life is not long. It's short-lived. It goes fast. Make the best out of what you have. Every day is a gift. Every day that you get up and you get to move forward, it's a gift, because you're still here. And you think about all the other ones that have passed away from, the virus, COVID and everything that we had. It's over. Once it's over, it's over. It's done. But, as I'm in the midst of it, and my prayer thoughts is God, help me be strong and help me make the right decisions. Help me love and care for people like you do. Not like I do, but like you do.
Yeah, this is really moving and really beautiful, and I appreciate all of it. Just to circle back for a moment, just to give the audience a little bit of context, because obviously when you were going through it, so to speak, I know you were probably wondering like why the fall for a while, and then ultimately it began to come to you, your purpose and so forth. Was there a while when you were saying to yourself like, why this fall for me?
No, I don't think I ever said that. And, I look at it, and I start to understand. And when I analyze it more than anything, I understand it is that not why the fall, why not? It's why not? Why not? Falls in life and troubles in life, and because if you walk through this life and you think you don't have any shortcomings, you're gonna think you're God gifted to the earth, and that nothing moves you, and you're gonna live a false life at the end of your life, because at the end of your life is not going to be about what you did, because they're only going to talk about you for about a week, after you pass away, and then they stop talking about you. It's over. But then who are you and where you go from there? And I think people don't pay attention to that part of life. They only pay attention to what happens here. So I'm grateful for the fall, because see, my fall and my pain and my stuff will help somebody else see life from a different perspective. When they hear me come in and minister to them, they realize that this guy has been through some things. Now, how does he have so much joy and so much wisdom and knowledge in his life from all the things he's been through? He should have been dead, but he's not dead. He's had cancer twice. He's got one kidney and still operating in the capacity that you could never imagine. Why? Because I have operated into the important principles of my life, and that's my faith, and live according to that. I don't live according to being Darryl Strawberry. I live according to what I have done in life, yes. And I live according to, see, I lived according to the good. Yeah, everybody loves the good, the baseball, but they don't love the fall part. I love the fall part because the fall part has made me a better man today to have a greater impact on somebody else's life.
100%. And I agree with you 100%. And your perspective is bulletproof. What I was getting is like when you're going through it, sometimes it's hard for you to see. Obviously now, you realize.
What's hard for you to see when you're in it?
Yeah.
When you're when you're in the midst of it, when you're in the midst of the storm, it's hard for you to see. It's like I can't. How can I get out of the storm? But how can I get out of the storm if I'm doing the same thing? If I still have the same behavior? Yeah. So that's what people don't understand is the behavior of who you are has to change. And even if you are in a storm and it's not your behavior, you still have to go through the storm to get to where you got to get. Yeah. And that's so important for people to understand. I couldn't see when I was in the storm, but it was my behavior of who I was that wasn't changing. It wasn't until I changed that. Somebody that's probably in the midst of a addiction like I was, if they're still there, it's because of their behavior. You're the one that's making the choice to stay there. You can get up and change that behavior and become a different person. All you got to do is turn and go the other way and not go the way you continue to go.
Hell yeah. And for the audience listening, like if you're going through it right now, if you're in the midst of the storm, like you can't give up because you don't know what's on the other side, right?
They don't have no idea what's on. You never know what's on the other side. Life is a walkthrough, and you have to be able to walk through it. And there's an other side to get on from all the troubled things that have happened in your life and whatever storm you're in. I always tell them, just remember that storm. As long as you don't go under in that storm in the water, because if you go under, you're going to drown. But if you don't go under and stay above, you will never drown. You will just be above it, and you will get past the storm and get past through some of the situations that occur in your life.
And you will turn your season around, right?
You can turn it around, baby. Hey, it's what's so important about turning the season around. I think what most people don't understand and realize how you turn your season around. It's just like a baseball game. You can go 0 for 2 in the first 2 at bats, but I still got 2 left. So if I'm still thinking about the 0 for 2 that I'm in, I'm not going to be prepared for the next 2 at bats. So I got to be prepared for the next 2 at bats. I can win the ball game with 1 swing. So I always remember that in a ball game. And that's how you could turn a game around and you could turn your season around. I always tell people to turn your season around. You can have a poorly first half of the season, but surely there's a whole second half of the season coming. And if I got confidence and beliefs in myself to be ready to go to the second half, that I'm going to get it done and to get it done, that season has been turned around.
Bang. And also like for the audience, right, for the listeners, like yes, life, if you're going through a storm, but even like if you're having a difficult morning, right, and instead of worrying about that and carrying that around all day, like just focus on the next activity, right, and stack magical moments. Do the best that you can, each conversation, each phone call, each relationship, whatever the case may be, and you could turn your day around.
That's right. That's what's next. What's next. Like I said, I could have sat there and pouted for 0 for 2. But what about the next 2? That's the same thing. It's in the same day. It's in the same game. It's in the same day of your life. One thing happens. Okay, well, that has happened. Well, what's the next thing that's coming after that? I can make sure I keep going forward. But if I dwell, I'm never going to get past that. And that's how people get stuck, as they dwell on what has happened instead of getting past that and moving on and getting into the next place.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm so proud of you. Like, watching your journey is inspiring to me. I know it's inspiring to millions of others. Well, everyone that hears this episode is going to be uplifted in case you weren't familiar. It's just awesome to watch. And it gives hope for anybody that's kind of going through the storm as we speak, right? Like, look at the transformation possible if you don't give up, so to speak. And ultimately, you change your behaviors. With all the cool stuff that you have going on right now, Darryl, what are you most excited about right now?
I think I'm just most excited about family life. My kids get to see a different perspective of their father, compared to, just being the baseball player and the guy that went through life and had troubles. They get to see me have an impact. And I think that's more important than anything when in life is, it's to never quit, never give up, because you never know what the end of your journey may look like. That's what so many people that could be watching this, don't give up, don't quit, don't give into it, just keep pursuing. And if you keep pursuing, there's victory on the other side. I'm a prime example or what victory looked like from not giving up. Had I given up, I wouldn't be the person I am today.
And you know what the best part about you is? You're just getting warmed up.
I know I am really just getting started. It's been the last
Wow.
15 years I've been doing what I'm doing, and I'm just starting, and getting up in age. I'm 60, but my health is
Years young.
it looks young, yeah. And still young, feel young. You still have some challenges, but at the same time, I'm not where I could have been. And that's the part that you look at. I am where I'm supposed to be, and if you keep pursuing, you can get there too.
Yeah, and we'll land the plane with this. Like from pivoting from Wall Street to what we're doing now, like when I was a bit more unevolved or immature, like validation for me was nice watch, right? Or a nice place or a fat paycheck or something like that. But now I seek validation when somebody says, Craig, I listened to your episode with Darryl and it changed my perspective. I heard you on stage and your message really resonated with me. And you get to do this each and every single day. Isn't that the best form of validation when you touch somebody's life and then they make a shift?
It's a great foundation, because I think we're here for a reason, to be able to have that kind of influence and impact on other people's lives, and say, hey, look, I've been through something too. I used to think all this stuff was important, like you said, Craig. You should, think this was important, that was important, but now I can, bring you something to, help you, encourage you to change your course of life and keep you moving and not give up and not quit. And maybe you'll reach the destiny that's for you. Because at the end of the day, this is really what it's all about. It's about a destiny for all of us, and we're not the one that are determined to tell you your destiny, but we can help you, get there by, the positive affirmation that we bring to you. Your destiny is determined by your will to go forward and not give up and do the next right thing after things have happened in your life that wasn't so good.
That's it. You're such a beautiful soul. I appreciate it so much. I want to ask you real quick. Are you big into like the law of attraction and intention and stuff like that? Just curious.
Of attraction?
Yeah, like the power of intention, the law of attraction.
I have not. I have not been.
Yeah, but your faith, I mean, it says it all. That's all you need.
Well, that's all you need. That's all you really need to do is have some belief inside of yourself
Yeah.
more than anything else. I think, because we can believe in each other, but if you don't believe inside yourself, it'll never come out.
Yeah, that's it. The brand is exploding. I say very humbly, they're very loyal and engaged. What's the best way for the community and for the audience to support you, Darryl?
Well, the best way to support me is, just continue to pray for me, that I will continue to be uh, a vessel, a vessel that goes out to, not important, but a vessel that goes out there to encourage others. And as I do, I go on my journey. I travel a lot. My travel schedule is loaded, and I just continue to need people. I'm always up and down on the airplane and hotel in some other state somewhere, doing something to try to make a difference in people's lives.
So beautifully said. What's the best way for me personally to support you?
Uh, However you like, just whatever you want to, however you push it out there, just have people follow me, become followers of me, and
So,
what I do and everything, my social media, Facebook, Instagram, just to be there to see that I do care about people being transformed.
yeah, I'm going to promote this. I'm going to hype it. I want everybody to listen to this message 100%. After this, we'll exchange numbers. And if you're in New York or around and you have a minute, I'd love to grab a cup of coffee and give you a big fat bear hug.
Well, that sounds good, Craig. I look forward to that, brother. You owe me that.
Done and done. Darryl, I want you to know you're the definition of perspective, reinvention, and growth, from taking your life experience to spreading positivity, light, and deep truths. You're a true gladiator, visionary, and role model, and beacon of hope for anybody coming up today with big goals and aspirations. I could personally guarantee your best yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect to you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless nuggets today, Darryl.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That was an awesome conversation.
Thanks, Craig. You got it. You got it, brother.
Told you be a little different, right? I'm a little weird, but in a good way, I think.
No, you good, man. You're all good, man. It's all great, man. So how's your thing going?
Yeah, so the brand is exploding. The
Good.
happen, like you said, like
Right.
life is short. And when I finally found myself grounded, I realized like I don't want to go back to Wall Street, even though it was my own business. I'm like, I got to figure something else out. And I had kind of a spiritual moment, and just like I love personal development and I'm gifted.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, and I could communicate well. So and I put this together. And in the last year and a half, it's exploded. We've had, you know, a lot of the world's greats on the podcast, speaking all over now. And I sold the business in Wall Street. And the irony is like, I didn't do this for the money. But as it
Right.
turns out, like when you step into alignment and you're feeding your soul, like the universe will give you more money than you know what to do with. So
Right.
that's just a bonus, but this isn't work to me. I genuinely love this stuff. I love to help people support and even like interacting with you right now, forming a friendship. I just love this stuff.
I like that. That's good, man. You got the right perspective about it now. So because you already been there, you like you said, you know, you've been to the Wall Street, you've been in this, you've been in that. But how can I, you know, have a greater impact on others and then encourage others? Because we have so many that are hurting that doesn't, you know, have the kind of freedom that we have, but we have that to express because we live it. You know, it's an everyday living in our life. So that's really cool.
And it's almost like killing two birds with one stone, right? Because you get to help people, but also it's so fulfilling.
Yes, yes, that's the whole key. You know, you're helping them, but it's fulfilling at the end of the day. Yes.
Yeah, cool. Are you active on Instagram or not really?
I am. I'm on Instagram a lot. Yeah,
You are?
I am. Darryl
Okay.
Strawberry 18.
I'm gonna add you and I'll shoot you a message and I could also support you there. And let's build a friendship.
All right. Well, here I'm gonna give you my cell.